We have a very distinguished, knowledgeable panel here today, of which I'm not one of the experts. They will address the systems and snafus and possible solutions towards eradicating global hunger. Panel discussion addresses global food distribution systems, challenges and gaps in the current network, and possible approaches to overcoming existing barriers in comprehensive distribution. We're privileged to have a distinguished panel of hunger activists. To begin the session, I'd like to introduce you to Ajulo Othow, who is serving in the dual role of panel participant and moderator for this session. And she will introduce the rest of our panel. We did lose Reverend Buchanan, who wasn't feeling well, so he's not going to be with us today. Ms. Othow is the Deputy Director of the U.S. Regional Office of Oxfam America. Her detailed biographical information, along with that of the other panelists, is available in your program. Ms. Othow.
Thank you. So welcome to our panel. It's just after lunch, so we'll try to keep it lively. I'm still honored to be here with this group of panelists, and I would like to just say that what a privilege it is for us to be here today, to be in this room, to be able to have a lunch in the midst of a discussion that is so deep and profound, and I'm sure that we're all thankful for the privilege. And I thank you all for your commitment and your time and your resources for coming out on a gray Saturday and weathering this rain. The panelists before you, as the opening person said, are a dedicated and very distinguished group of people. They've dedicated their lives to directly serving people who are hungry and poor. They've raised their voices in the halls of Congress and at the United Nations, at the U.S. Department of Agriculture, at the United States Agency for International Development, with people in countries all over the world. And so I encourage you all to look to them. This panel is here for you. They are here to educate you, to inspire you, and so please don't hesitate to ask questions when we come towards the end. I ask you, to think about that 1 billion hungry people are starving. 1 billion people are hungry and poor. It sort of stretches the limits of our minds to think about that number. That 85% of the people in the world live off of $900 or less per year, and that the enormity of the problem is very daunting. For too many in the world, the weight of poverty is crushing, both here and abroad. People that are hungry are also facing fears of war. They're facing fears of the next hurricane, the next cyclone, the next drought, the next flood. A fear that the price of their crops, their harvest, won't cover the school fees for their child, or the fees for certain fertilizer or seed, and that there may in fact not be a harvest next year. It takes people like us to make a difference, to not only alleviate, but eliminate hunger. It is possible. And I want you to imagine with me what your action might be for poor people. Helping a hungry person or a poor person is like lighting a tiny candle in a deep darkness. That even though this light, this fundamental bright, it nourishes our bodies, but it also illuminates something more, just beyond our grasp. Now out of the shadows comes the possibility of a small clinic or a school, maybe a little business or a well with fresh water, and definitely a voice that was once silenced, now demanding justice. Imagine that with your action, you can help to illuminate this small light. Maybe you're the match, maybe you're the candle. You can do it. And with that, I'd like to introduce our panel. Congresswoman Eva Clayton, very honored to be here with. Served with the United Nations Food and Agriculture Agency, the FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, has spent much of her life dedicated to solving issues of poverty and hunger, both here in North Carolina as a congresswoman, but also around the world. She's raised her voice and dedication. And Dr. Whelan, also dedicated to finding solutions through policy and by changing some of the systems that affect poor people around the world. Dr. Whelan was also a former Jesuit volunteer and has spent time in more than 25 countries around the world. So again, I encourage you to use this panel. They are here for you. Thank you.
I am also very pleased to be a part of this panel and participate in this conference, and I'm very pleased that the Franciscan Coalition has invited all of you and that you have responded. And the fact that you have responded means that you have, I heard the word self-selected, but you have raised the consciousness of North Carolina and the opportunity, I think, to address hunger. So I'm very pleased that we'll have an opportunity to have a dialogue, and I hope you think of this as a dialogue as to what we can do. Understanding the issue of global hunger from several perspectives obviously is a worthwhile goal, but also appropriating and suggesting appropriate solution is also a service. And so I want to congratulate the Franciscan Coalition for having the foresight that bringing us together collectively, we can not only understand but be motivated to take some action that indeed would alleviate this. I'm struck by their title, that the title is Hunger No More, and I agree with that premise because I think that premise suggests that if we are united and work together, we can end hunger. In fact, I think that if you think of it as an inevitability, I want you to think of, we can end the slavery of hunger. We can end the bondage of hunger if we really think of that as the opportunity that we are given. This has been a very active week, and I want to tell you, I'm ending up with you here, which I think is probably the best part of the week. But I was in Washington most of the week, and there were two national reports. One bringing together about 25 national organizations who don't usually work together, but they work together on this to make recommendations from food relief to development, and they presented that to Congress. Also, a report that I was involved in under the Chicago Council of Global Affairs, where we wrote a report again and submitted that. I'll say a little more about that later. In addition to that, there was a partnership to how to cut hunger and poverty in Africa. So you had about 20 different ambassadors and others working with that. Peter McPherson, who now is over Subject, is a founder of that. Some of you know Peter McPherson years ago used to be the USAID director and then became president of Michigan State.